you've lived in the 3 different continents, and you were born in the Netherlands,
Yeah.
developed Korea, in the US as a cinematographer and director,
Yeah.
and now you are teaching in China.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, as an educator, you have been hosting master classes and other educational programs in different countries.
Yeah.
So, what are the biggest challenges you've ever encountered while dealing with cultural differences in these educational programs?
Well, there's a couple of challenges. First of all, and one of the reasons I got more into education, especially later in my life, and specifically for China, is that when you talk to film students worldwide, they all have this vision that they move to Hollywood and they become stars in the various occupations, that they pursue, whether it's a cinematographer, director, writer, etc. And there is a lot of validity to that, but there's also a lot of myth about that. When I started to get more involved with master classes all around the world, and I started to meet these young people that I thought were just concentrating too much on the myth and too little on their own talent and their own culture. And when I had the opportunity to start teaching in China, that was one of my main issues with the students, is to say, yeah, I know you want to move somewhere else. You all want to. I did that when I was younger too, of course. I went from Holland to the United States. But I keep telling them, know your own culture first, because if you're not familiar with your own culture, you have nothing to fall back on. And you could fail miserably, creatively. Because if you're a lonely person in a foreign country, believe me, it's very, very hard to be outstanding, So I think that culturally, know your own place, know where you're from, and once you're familiar with that and you know it all, you can venture out and decide eventually, or decide in a really good manner, whether you want to stay abroad or whether you want to go back to your home country and continue a tradition and a culture there.
Your students are from across the globe. Could you please talk about your favorite students? What qualities do they typically possess?
Well, as a teacher, you're not supposed to have favorite students, right? You want to teach everybody equal. And I like to be open as possible to all the students and let them talk. I mean, some teachers are very good, but they impose their own knowledge and their own taste and everything, and believe in the fact that you can shape a student. I don't think I can shape a student. I think a student is a student, and a student is good or bad, depending on the opportunities that you give them, because you can't really tell in advance if somebody is excelling or not.
And some of the students will finally go to break into the industry.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them, the young filmmakers, like especially those from China or Netherlands?
Well, it doesn't matter. If you're a student in film school, any film school, anywhere in the world, you're interested in cinema. And cinema you learn by doing it, not by looking at other people or being somebody's assistant in the end. I mean, any experience is good experience, right? But eventually you can sit next to somebody driving a car and knowing anything that person does, with the steering wheel. The best day is when you get in the car yourself and you drive down the street for the first time, and within 5 minutes you learn how to really drive, right?
Wow.
Very quickly. Same applies to making movies. You have to start making movies as much as you can.
And you have been teaching at the Shanghai Theatre Academy for like 4 years? Maybe?
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Yeah.
So far, how has China inspired you? And are there any aspects of Chinese culture or filmmaking that you are particularly interested in exploring?
Yeah, it's been very inspiring to come to China and actually being forced to consider the culture, not only just the terracotta warriors, Ming Dynasty. No, I mean, but the culture is the way Chinese people think, the way they express themselves, the way they write, the way they interpret poetry and visual imagery. And of course, it was a new culture for me in that sense. I mean, I knew a little bit about China, but not that intimately. So for me, that learning process was amazing. And that in combination with being able to help people bring their vision. So teaching, I always say, yes, I like to transfer as much knowledge that I have and can provide to my students. But believe me, I'm learning also a lot from them.